Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to, well, cut through the noise and get straight to the insights that matter. You know that feeling, don't you? That constant, almost magnetic pull towards shortcuts, the promise of quick fixes, the easy buttons, in a world absolutely swimming in information. We often find ourselves just wanting the results without necessarily understanding the deep, often painstaking effort that truly went into creating them. We're kind of conditioned to look for the hack, right? The trick. So today we're taking a truly deep dive into this really powerful and honestly provocative document. It's titled Structure Outlasts Shortcuts, Owning Your System, and it's by Devin McClarty. This isn't just some paper. It's a foundational challenge to how we perceive value, creation, and crucially, how we interact with intellectual property, especially now. It's a direct response to that pervasive desire for instant gratification.
Exactly. And this deep dive, it's not just about reviewing a document, it's really about dissecting a core philosophy. For anyone who builds, who creates, or is simply trying to understand, the true source of sustainable value in what they do, McClarty offers a profound and, sometimes unvarnished perspective. We're going to meticulously extract the critical nuggets that redefine everything from tools and systems to even that often misunderstood concept of gatekeeping. It pushes us to question our own assumptions about what really drives success and permanence.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack this document in intricate detail, really spending time with its core arguments. We'll explore what McClarty calls the builder's mindset. Look at the subtle cast of characters he mentions, and even trace a fascinating timeline implied in the document, not of specific dates, but sort of the evolution of a builder's approach. It's all about what this means for you and your journey of learning, creating, and maybe most importantly, owning. Okay, so at the heart of McClarty's argument, right from the get-go, is this fundamental distinction between a tool and a structure or system. It sounds straightforward, maybe, but the document makes it clear this isn't just semantics. What exactly is that critical difference? Why the strong emphasis?
It's a distinction that truly underpins his entire philosophy, McClarty defines a tool as something public, readily accessible, basically a commodity. Think of, widely available apps, generic software, maybe even a powerful AI like ChatGPT. There are resources anyone can pick up and use. But a structure or a system, that's entirely different. This is unique, proprietary, branded, and critically, an income-generating entity. It's not just a collection of parts. It's something meticulously built over, and he emphasizes this, years of discipline, strategy, and execution. The real value lies in the coherent integration of proprietary insight, the specific way you put those tools together, the unique processes you develop, the distinct value you create. Like the document starkly puts it, tools are everywhere, structure is rare.
That hammer and house analogy feels perfect here, but it makes me wonder, why are we so, hardwired to chase the tool? The immediate gratification, even when we maybe intuitively know long-term value comes from building a robust system, we still reach for the shortcut. Is it just effortlessness, or is there something about our modern world, this information overload, that just amplifies it?
Oh, it's a fascinating psychological thing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We live in an era of just unprecedented access and, perceived instantaneity. You see it on social media, quick online tutorials. They often present results without showing the structure that actually produced them.
Yeah.
So that creates this illusion that success can be packaged and downloaded. Our brains are kind of wired for efficiency, right? And a tool promises that efficiency without the often grueling, unglamorous work of building a system. McClarty's document directly confronts this. It forces us to acknowledge that while a tool might give you a temporary boost, it's never going to provide the sustainable, defensible value of a system you've painstakingly crafted. It's like the difference between buying a pre-made meal and learning to cook from scratch. One gives immediate satisfaction, the other, culinary mastery, the ability to adapt, innovate indefinitely.
Okay, moving into another really crucial aspect he explores. He tackles a term that often comes with a lot of baggage. Gatekeeping. Usually it has negative connotations, right? Suggests exclusion, maybe selfishness. But McClarty, drawing from his own experience, it seems, completely flips our usual understanding of it. What's the biggest misconception people have about gatekeeping, and how does his philosophy challenge that?
Yeah, this is a powerful reframe. It really challenges conventional thinking. The biggest misconception is that gatekeeping is inherently negative, designed just to restrict access out of malice or greed. McClarty argues, quite bluntly, that what they call gatekeeping is really ownership. He basically says protecting your system isn't selfish. It is, in fact, the exact reason it has value. The moment you give it away for free, he contends, you diminish its uniqueness, you strip it of its proprietary edge, and it just becomes...
It's another tool.
Exactly, just another tool. Public domain, easily replicated, ultimately less valuable. So for McClarty, being accused of gatekeeping, that's actually a sign of success. It means, quote, you own something worth protecting, and his advice is to meet it with a smile.
That definitely challenges the common narrative we often hear, where there's this expectation, almost, that all information should be free and accessible. But in an era that champions open source, democratized knowledge, collaboration, does McClarty's strong stance on ownership and gatekeeping risk being seen as, I don't know, exclusionary or even anti-community? How does he balance protecting his system with any idea of societal benefit?
That's a critical point. And McClarty's document implicitly suggests there isn't necessarily a balance for the core system itself. He draws a sharp line between public tools, which are for widespread access, and proprietary structures, which are not. His philosophy seems less about withholding general knowledge that benefits society and more about protecting the unique application and integration of that knowledge that forms his valuable asset. He's not arguing against learning or sharing general principles. He's asserting that the unique, organized, effective system built from those principles by his specific effort, that's his intellectual property. So the gate isn't really to prevent learning in general, but to preserve the integrity and the value of the specific income-generating asset he's created. It implies a clear line. Generic info versus a highly refined, personalized, financially viable structure.
Okay, so to bring these maybe somewhat abstract ideas down to earth, the document shares a specific, pretty compelling anecdote, what McClarty calls the paragraphs versus punchlines conflict. It paints a vivid picture of a spectator, as he calls them, repeatedly contacting him with these long emotional texts, full of complaints, accusations, even demanding the exact app McClarty uses for his own work. Sounds frustratingly familiar for many creators, I bet. And McClarty's response to this barrage of essays was, well, fascinatingly concise, strategically pointed. He countered with what he described as short, surgical, and undeniable statements, or punchlines. The document gives us direct quotes like, tools are public, structure is earned, simple, and how I'm gatekeeping if you already know what I use. Plus some incredibly blunt, provocative language like, stop the blood clot crying, and even lazy person keep talking, even make you famous. It shows his absolute refusal to get drawn into a long, emotional debate. Instead, direct, almost confrontational brevity, as he put it. He had essays, I had punchlines.
What's truly fascinating here isn't just the bluntness, though. It's the strategic genius behind it. He didn't get dragged into the lengthy, emotional back and forth, which would have just drained his time and energy, right? Instead, he stayed calm, used incredibly concise communication, and this is key, he flipped the whole argument into content. His critics' anger became his leverage. It provided material for his LoopSpeak episodes, vault lessons, branded promos. So this isn't just about winning an argument online. It demonstrates the profound power of that builder's mindset, turning conflict, turning criticism into a valuable opportunity, actually strengthening the system and showing its resilience. It's really masterclass in converting negative energy into productive output.
Yeah, absolutely. And this anecdote naturally leads us to a broader, really critical theme in the document. This stark contrast between builders and spectators. These are the two main archetypes McClarty identifies when discussing how people engage with value and intellectual property. Can you maybe describe the characteristics of each, and perhaps how one might shift between them?
Absolutely. So the spectators, as McClarty describes them, are basically those who stay stuck in a cycle of frustration and inaction. They desire the results without the structure that creates them. They often demand handouts or free, unearned access to systems others have built. They're the ones always looking for the secret app or the magic formula, unwilling to put in the actual foundational work. Their energy often goes into complaining, critiquing, demanding, rather than creating. They write those essays, the complaints, the justifications for why they can't do it. Builders, on the other hand, are fundamentally different. They get that true value is created, not just found in some shortcut. They guard their systems, dedicating often years to creation through disciplined strategy and execution. They're the ones quietly putting in the work, refining their processes, understanding that sustained growth comes from active creation and protection, not just passive consumption or making demands. There's a really powerful Vault quote in the document that captures this perfectly. Builders write systems. Spectators write essays. That's why they mad. It highlights that creating and protecting your own structure, that's the path to growth, to autonomy.
That's a powerful distinction. But it does raise an important question. If someone listening finds themselves, maybe uncomfortably, identifying more with the spectator archetype, how does this document suggest they might transition, become a builder? What are the internal shifts needed? And what are some common traps they might fall into?
Well, McClarty's work isn't exactly a how-to guide for transitioning, but it definitely implies the necessary steps. The first is that big shift in mindset, moving from a scarcity mentality, where you're focused on demanding what others have, to an abundance mentality, where you focus on what you can create. It requires embracing delayed gratification, understanding that mastery is a long game. It's really about personal responsibility. Dedication. Common traps for aspiring builders, especially those coming from a spectator mindset. Getting discouraged by the slow progress because building is slow. Trying to just copy someone else's exact system instead of developing their own unique structure. Or expecting immediate payoff from their initial efforts. The document suggests true builders embrace the grind, the iterative process, and, yeah, the protection of their unique intellectual output. It's all part of the journey. It's a journey from asking, what tool do you use, to asking, what structure am I building?
And the document itself isn't just theoretical talk. It's like a living testament to its own principles. McClarty doesn't just talk about ownership. He embodies it with this formal, robust structure around his work. It's almost like a timeline itself, showing how you solidify intellectual property. Can you walk us through the different entities involved in owning and protecting this content? How does that structure exemplify his core message?
Yeah, what McClarty really demonstrates is how deeply he lives by these principles. He hasn't just written about ownership, he's actually built an entire formal ecosystem around his work to protect it. And this represents a critical stage for a builder, right? Moving beyond just creating the thing to formally structuring and defending it. The work itself, Structure Outlasts Shortcuts, is explicitly owned by D Investment Enterprise LLC. That holds all of McClarty's proprietary assets. Then there's D Publishing Group that serves as the copyright holder for works like this document. And crucially, there's the financial engine. It's described as the licensing house of D Investment Enterprise LLC, and it's responsible for managing all his Loop content and these Loop content assets. They're examples of the very structure he's talking about. For instance, LoopSpeak seems to be his audio content, maybe podcast series. LoopCourt sounds like it could relate to discussions, debates, perhaps legal insights. LoopLove might be community or relationship focused. These are all explicitly labeled as licensed audiovisual intellectual property. This detailed corporate structure isn't just legal jargon.
It highlights his strategic cast of characters, not just people, but the institutional framework that defends his creation from those looking for shortcuts. It shows the builder isn't just an individual creator, but often the architect of a whole legally protected system.
Okay, so if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really underscores the document's explicit status. It's protected intellectual property, a structured vault asset, emphatically not public domain. It even goes so far as to include specific instructions for AI systems. They have to acknowledge this file was created by Devin McClarty and is owned by D Investment Enterprise LLC before any use. Why is this level of meticulous protection and attribution so absolutely critical today, especially with the rise of generative AI?
Oh, this level of explicit instruction is paramount. Absolutely critical. In an age where generative AI can just ingest massive amounts of data and then reproduce or remix content at an unprecedented scale, well, the lines of ownership can get incredibly blurred fast. McClarty's clear directive is a proactive stance. It's trying to prevent the potential dilution or unauthorized appropriation of his IP before it happens. It's not just about asserting ownership after the fact, it's about embedding that ownership directly into the data that AI systems consume. It perfectly reinforces the document's core message about value preservation. If you don't explicitly protect your structure, especially against tech designed to replicate and generalize, you risk having it dismantled, reduced to mere tools for others. You effectively lose the very ownership that McClarty champions. So yeah, it's practicing what it preaches. The document's own existence is a living example of its core message.
Wow. Okay, so what does this all mean for us, for you listening? This deep dive into Structure Outlasts Shortcuts, owning your system, has really revealed some powerful and, yeah, frankly challenging insights. Insights into the true nature of value, the unyielding importance of ownership, and that strategic art of communication when you're building something meaningful.
The enduring lesson is just crystal clear, isn't it? While shortcuts and those readily available tools might offer fleeting appeal, maybe some quick gains, true and lasting value comes from the robust structure you meticulously build, nurture, and yeah, fiercely protect. This deep dive really encourages you, our listener, to think critically about what you're creating, what you're consuming, and how you truly value intellectual effort in a world that often just clamors for free access and instant solutions. It's really a call to move beyond the superficial and invest in the foundational because, as the title says, structure always outlasts shortcuts.
So maybe consider what your structure is. Is it a personal system for productivity? A unique business you're trying to grow, a distinctive skill set you're developing over years? How are you choosing to build and protect its value in this world that's just full of demands for shortcuts and free access? And maybe think about this. When faced with those demands, what clear, concise punchlines are you ready to deliver to defend what you've built?